Hello and welcome. I hope you're doing all you can to help the most vulnerable people in the world. In today's exciting episode, I do a little bit more on the mosaic cherry jacket and then I do this one. It's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect jacket. So this is, I think I did a style episode, beading haul last time. So this is several weeks worth of beading. So I think the last time you saw this, I'd almost done half of the front, and I still hadn't done anything on the back or anything on the sleeves really. But I had finished the one on the left, the other cherry jacket. So I bought 1 yard of this fabric and I ended up making 2 tiny little cropped boleros out of it. And one I've beaded with those metallic green leaf beads, which I seriously didn't know that I would ever use them. Sometimes you buy a bead and you're like, wow, this is so challenging. It's going to be so challenging to use. Anyway, I really like how that one turned out. But I also wanted something completely different for the other cherry jacket. And that's why I went with this mosaic one. It requires the sort of tile-shaped beads in sort of magenta-y pink and the sort of more darker magenta. They've got a really, really narrow hole and you can only work with them if you use a beading needle, and I happen to have my beading needles out, so that's why I ended up using them on this one. I think they look really, really good, but this type of beading just takes forever because you have to stitch one on, then stitch it on again, and then do another, and they're so small, it takes forever. Anyway, love how it's looking, but it's taking forever. So I took a break and I played with got out some of my fabrics. I'm going to do a fabric KonMari, I think, where I just get out all my fabrics and divide them into fabrics I'm going to turn into layer cake dresses and fabrics I'm going to turn into jackets. So these are sort of, I think this is me sort of starting to play around with them, but I'll get out all of them because I have a lot of scraps too. And I think I'll do panels with all the aqua scraps. I'll do a panel in the aqua dress with aqua scraps in it and things like that. And yeah, I already have one green dress. I already have several green dresses, but I think I'll do a few more as well because I just love green. It's my favorite color. Anyway, so I took a break to play with the fabrics because the colors are beautiful. And then I got back to this jacket. So what I did was because it's a quilting cotton base and there's printed colors on there, the edge of it, you could see that the edge was, some sections were white and some sections were pink. And the white was really glaring because the mosaic, when you get close, you can see the base fabric, but from far away, it just looks like it's all sort of a hot pink, magenta, red color. So I had to go around and stitch tiny beads on the edge so that you couldn't see the white. Oh my goodness, it took forever. So at this point, I think I've done and you do every second bead, and you go all the way round, up the center front, round the neckline, down the center front, and around the back. And then you do that, and then you go back and you fill in every second bead. So that's how you get the whole thing covered. But oh my goodness, and you have to use smaller beads because this is me just showing you the stitches. So it's nice and neat and clean, but there's just literally thousands and thousands of beads on there. As I said, I just love the effect. It really reminds me of those Judith Lieber purses, and it looks very, very bling. But oh my goodness, it just takes forever. It's going to take a while, this one, and it has occurred to me that it's August already, and I've only done 3 of my make 9, so I've got 2/3 of them left to go. So I probably should put down this and do something else. But yeah, it's going to be amazing once it's finished. Personally, I think the key to completing something like this, which is such a complex, big, long project, I just keep work on it until I just feel like I'm slowing down and my enthusiasm is waning. And then I go do something else. And then I come back only when I have, like, I want to. And that way I still have the energy and I work at a at a worthwhile rate. So at this point, I did one sleeve, and again, you just do every second bead, and then you have to go. Well, you do it all the way around, and then once that's done, you do another loop, and you stitch on the in between beads that you missed the first time. And yeah, I wasn't sure because there's some leaves on the edge and some cherries. I was like, do I leave the cherry bits? Do I leave that? But I ended up doing all the background mosaic beads the whole way round. And I think it looks better. It's just more uniform. So I still got one more sleeve to go. And I decided to take a break because doing the edges, like, they are so thin, and you have to use small beads and you have to stitch them on the edge. And obviously you have to stitch them on twice to anchor it properly so they don't fall off or move or anything. But oh my goodness, it's really technical work. And I mean, it's impressive to me or to anyone who understands what beading is. But goodness, otherwise it's just like it takes such a lot of time. But it's the details that make a piece. So I do like it. And I'm chipping away at it. There's this arcade. Well, there's several arcades in the city I'm living at the moment, and it's got an entirely mosaic floor, and I just have so much appreciation for the people who did that. It's like got all these different pictures and patterns and things in there, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. Imagine going to work for months and months or years and years on end, and you just like, how big the building is, and how many tiles you've got. You just sit there breaking them up into the precise piece needed and adding it in. I admire their dedication and skill, and like the pretty pictures that they make. You can actually tell what you're looking at too. So that's harder than, like, I'm just mixing colors. Anyway, so I've done a little bit more work. I'm not sure you can tell, but slowly, the whole thing is becoming filled in. But yes, I was also losing the will to bead. When you're doing something so detailed and with such tiny beads, I think I should have had another one that had big beads, or like just pulled out a couple of my tweed jackets that need something simple, or and done a few projects or finished a few UFOs that are almost finished or something, because it's just such a finicky little detailed project that I think I need a few quick wins dotted in between. So anyway, I put down the jacket again. I left it on the mannequin for a bit and played around with some of the fabrics. Now, this watermelon fabric, I bought 3 yards of it when it was on sale, and I was just going to make maybe a couple of tiny boleros and a jacket and a dress to go with it. And so anyway, I'm thinking of mixing them all together and making one big dress instead of several smaller dresses. And same with this bow fabric. I was thinking of making 2 different jackets and beading them 2 different ways. But I'm looking at my jar of mosaic beads in these exact colors, and I'm like, nope, one mosaic jacket is fine. So I'll probably, this one here, I bought 3 yards of this as well. And I think what I'm going to do, originally I was just going to make a dress, and it would look absolutely adorable as a vintage dress. But I'm a victim of long-term stalking, so I kind of avoid making dresses that would look absolutely adorable on me. So what I think I will do, though, is make a skirt and a couple of tiny jackets. And that way, like, a skirt is not as bad. Most people never really look past your head and shoulders. So a skirt is fine. And yeah, but I also get the fun of working with the fabric to make two different jackets. I think I will do one that's more orange, I'm not sure, and the other that's more pink. Anyway, back to this one, and it's kind of just the same old, same old. I'm slowly adding more. I was thinking about doing the second sleeve, but I think I'll wait. And when I have the patience, I will do the first layer and then I'll film it so you can see what I mean by doing every second bead and then going around and filling in every other bead. If you've seen, I've got a separate beading tutorial video. It's over an hour long where I do all these different types of beadings, and you actually see my hands, you actually see me beading them. So if you watch that video, you'll be able to see exactly how it was done. But yeah, I'll take a photo so you can see part 1, part 2, but I haven't done that yet. So anyway, and this must have been at the point where I was like, okay, there's not enough material here to do a video. I have to do a video about something else. I did think about doing a fabric KonMari or doing a everything I made video, but I also, I was working so closely with the mosaic beads that I started thinking about, what jacket shall I work on next? And I wanted to think about all the beads. So I got out a box of beads, and this is just all different mixed ones. And I went through them, and there's gummy bear shaped beads. And so there's some novelty beads in there. I don't think I showed you any more of my ducks, but yeah, gummy bear shaped beads, and then this little seashell shaped beads. So just all different sorts of shapes, and they're mostly grouped in color order because obviously when you attach a bead you have to use a matching thread, or you can use a contrasting thread, but it's got to be a design choice to do that. So that's why they're each grouped in colors, even though a lot of the kids' beads, when you buy them, you can't buy just one color. You have to buy a mixed pack. So you end up having to buy, if you want one particular color to go with a particular jacket that you've made, then you end up having to buy a bunch of different packets. But yeah, and then sort them out. Anyway, so I've got loads of different beads and loads of plans for them. So it was really fun getting them out and sort of looking through them all. But being the relentless person that I am, I put all the beads back in the box and decided that my break was over and it was time to work on some beading again. So I did do a little bit more under this sleeve. This side section here, I added more beads there. Again, I look at it and I know what work I've done, and I'm not entirely convinced just looking at it that you can tell the difference, but there are a few less white patches. And then I was thinking about this jacket. It's a tweed jacket that I made years and years ago, and I started beading it. Originally, I beaded it in tiny beads, and you just couldn't see the beads. They were tiny, sort of pale gold beads, and they looked gorgeous, but you couldn't really see them. So I was like, no, let's go with something more obvious. And I ended up doing mosaic beading with the larger magenta, hot pink and red beads. So I think after I finish this one, I think I'll take all the beads off that other jacket and put them, sort of remake that original jacket on a cotton base jacket, and then you'll be able to see the tweed, and I'll rebead the tweed some other way because I really like that tweed, and there's so many beads on it you can't really, there's sections on the back where you can see the tweed, and obviously the inside of the jacket, the two front center panels are tweed, and I know what it is, but I don't know. I think plus I made it years ago and I'm much better at beading now. So anyway, clearly I decided to bead a different jacket. Now these bugle beads here that look navy blue with this sort of oil slick finish, they were in the bead haul that I just did. And I was like, and that made me think of this vintage floral bolero that I made earlier this year. And I was like, oh, what if you did fringe beading on that and you somehow used them, because it's got this sort of teal navy denim color in there. So I did two different samples. This one has a navy bead in between, like it's got hot pink, navy, hot pink, and then did another section that just had the pinky magenta ones. So they're slightly different, the two sections there. And then I did another sample that's, I didn't really like the fringe, or I thought it wasn't quite good enough. But sometimes that's just my mood, or you put it up on the mannequin and you see it from far away, like how it will actually be viewed. And you're like, actually, no, that's fine. So I left it for a bit and I did another couple of samples. I used the navy blue seed beads in the center of the flowers that have navy blue centers, or the tealish blue centers. And I thought it would look good, but it really didn't. So here it is up on the mannequin. There's two different types of fringe beading there, and still don't really like either of them. Like the way they swing, like the way the first one in particular swings. But yeah, like I love the movement and motion, but I don't know, it's a little bit too dark for me. So I was like, I think I should add more beads. Anyway, so this is the next sample I did with the dark beads in the center of the flowers. It just, I don't know, they look too blobby. I think if I'd used navy thread and clear glass seed beads, that would have looked interesting. Like it would have added texture without obscuring the vintage nature, like the really pretty nature of the floral design. The next sample I've actually taken off. I didn't film it. I put a sequin and a seed bead on the center of each flower, and that didn't look good either. But then I decided to try a sequin and anchored with a seed bead on in between the flowers, and I didn't like the sequins or the small seed bead, but I did like the idea of the beads being in the sort of peachy pink section, pale pink section, rather than on each flower. So that's what I did. I have these peachy pale pink glass beads. You can see they're the big ones at the bottom of the fringe, and I had also some other beads in the same color but with a different finish, and it's slightly smaller. So I had these two types of peachy beige glass beads, and I was like, ooh, I could like stitch them on all over. So that's what I decided to do, and I've just put it up here. I haven't finished it at this point, but I've put it up here, and it's so good. Like, it maintains the silhouette of the jacket. It doesn't obscure anything that I like about everything that I love about this vintage floral print is still clear and visible, but it adds weight and it adds texture and it makes it more visually interesting, adding these two different types of beige peach beads. So yeah, I was really happy with it. But because it's such a tiny jacket, and I felt like it needed more weight. So I was like, yeah, I'm actually going to have to do more fringe, but I've learned from my strawberry shortcake jackets and every other jacket I've ever made. It's like, okay, before I add the fringe or decide even what the fringe will be, I will do the design feature on the back. And so I got out these pink and red leftover flowers from the Barbie 2.0 jacket. These are the leftovers. And I was going to use them, but they're not like the vintage floral jacket. The fabric is faded. So I was like, how can I make these these bright coloured flowers look deader? So I was like, add brown beads to the centre. And I had these ambery brown ones, and I was like, oh, I don't know if this will either look incredibly terrible or absolutely gorgeous. And me personally, I think it looks gorgeous. I love this mix so much. Like, separately, none of these beads would have matched this jacket. None of them. But you combine them all together, and it's just chef's kiss. I love it. In a second, this is me showing you that once I'd done the design feature on the back, then I went around and finished all the other beading over the whole of the body of the jacket. So all the whole jacket is beaded now, but it's not heavy enough. So I feel like I have to add some fringe to it just because that's the way I prefer my jackets to sit. But you could happily, like, if you had different specifications or different needs, aesthetic needs to me, then the jacket would be finished now for most people. But oh my gosh, and this design feature on the back, I am so happy with it. Like, I cannot tell you, I took so many photos of it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Because yeah, as I said, like, separately, each of these beads just did not at all go with this vintage floral. They just were completely different color sets. And yeah, I'm just so impressed with the way that if you mix a bunch of different colors together, you get something completely different. But it worked. Like, you know, when you mix things and you're like, oh, I really am not sure if this is going to go. Like, technically, I know that it should, but you just look at all the ingredients and you're like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I'll make it, but there's a lot of faith going into this. And yeah, I just absolutely love it. Anyway, so then it was time to do the fringe, and I've got these tiny little ladybugs. So yeah, this is why the jacket is now called Vintage Ladybug, because I have only 40 of thigh ladybug beads. Some of them are beige with sort of white dots on them, and some of them are pale pink with beigey white dots on them. I've got more of the pale pink ones, so I really had to be careful counting them out. And so I ended up doing 3 layers of fringe beading. So this is the first layer. Each side, I only had enough for 9 on this side, 9 on the other side of the front, and 9 along the back. And then I was like, yes, but there's also the sleeves. So I end up using the 18 on the front left and front right, and then I kept the other half, or basically the other half, to maybe do the sleeves. So this is me doing the first layer of beading, and then I don't know, I sort of got second thoughts. I was like, maybe I should do the second layer of beading on this side just to see what it's like. And so, yeah, and this is me, like, from now on, every time I turn it around towards the back, I'll stop and admire that design feature, because it's just remarkable how well it turned out. Like, based on all the ingredients. You know, when you're cooking and you're trying a new recipe and you look at the list of ingredients and you're like, these do not look like they will go together. And then it ends up being something really delicious. Yeah, same. Anyway, so the front on the left side of the screen, that has the 2 layers of fringe in there. And then after I'd finished the 2 layers on both sides, to this right side of your screen, I've added the 3rd layer of beads. I just wanted to show you the difference between 2 different types of beading in the fringe and adding the 3rd type in there. It makes such a difference. I think that, like, I can see why some people would stop at 2, but the 3rd one is like in between every single one. So there's twice as many of the 3rd type of beading. So I guess technically you could say there's 4 beadings, but 3 and 4 are the same. So there's 3 designs mixed together to create the whole of the fringe. And then on the back here, as I said, I decided not to use the ladybugs on the back. Instead, I used another of those sort of round, flat, apricotish sort of beads. And from far away, it looks the same as a ladybug. Well, the ladybug is gold on one side and sort of beigey pink on the other side. So, but on the side where the enamel is, they look the same. And so from far away, you wouldn't know that there are no ladybugs on the back. So yeah, and because at this point I felt like I was still going to put beading on the sleeves, but I don't know, like, As I said, the vast majority of people only ever sort of look at your face and your chest because misogyny. So, yeah. And I like how if you only see the top half of the jacket, it's really, really simple. I love that about it. But I also really love the weight and the complexity of the fringe. Absolutely love it. And it totally suits the jacket. But yeah, I don't know. I like it the way it is. So, and if I do decide to do beading around the fringe beading around the sleeves, then this is me just adding the third layer of beading to the back section. Yeah, if I do decide to do the cuffs of the sleeves, then there's a couple of the beige beads that I have to unpick and tie off the threads. So it's a bit of a procedure, and this is me admiring the little vintage ladybugs. I did not know how I was going to use these ladybugs. I thought they'd just be there. Oh, and there's one that's too long. That's because my problem is when I'm beading, you know how some people knit and they don't really think about it, they just knit like it's muscle memory. I'm kind of the same with beading. I get into a rhythm and I just think about, if I'm writing a a narrative, like a story or a screenplay, then I think about that while I'm beading. And sometimes, yeah, so I accidentally added an extra bead in there to one of them. I go back in and I just cut it, take off all the beads from that particular string, tie the threads, then get a new thread and rethreaded all the beads on a new piece of thread and tied it off again. So it's a little bit of it's annoying to have to fix one of your mistakes, but it was, wasn't that difficult. Anyway, so here it is finished, and I'm still marveling at all these different beads. Like, if you saw all these beads separately, you would not think, like, some of them do match, like the peachy apricot-y pink colours do match most of them, but some of them just don't match at all. But when you put them all together, they just look so good on this jacket. When I made it, I was like, this is cute. Don't know how I'm going to beat it, but this is a really, really cute jacket. I guess I was just worried that I wouldn't do it justice. And I think this beading, yeah, like the green metallic leaves on the cherry jacket next to it. Love the beading, love the jacket, but I don't think people will walk away from that jacket going, oh, that's a cute cherry print jacket. I think the metallic green leaves are just so distracting that you might forget that it's a cherry print jacket. So anyway, I just think the vintage ladybug jacket, you can barely see the ladybugs. You really, really see the vintage floral print. And I'm really happy with it. And because the vintage ladybug jacket turned out so well, I had renewed enthusiasm for the mosaic cherry jacket. I was like, right, it's time to do some more work on this. And because I love the design feature on the back of that one so much, I was like, oh, I'm going to use those same flowers, that bag of leftover flowers, to do the design feature on the back of this one. But because this one isn't those faded vintage colours, I won't use the amber brown beads to anchor each of the flower beads. I'll use pinks and magentas and dark reds, like all the mosaic beads that I'm using. So this is what I did. And the problem with this is that the cherries sort of obscure what shape I've done. So it's supposed to be a triangle, but the blobs of red cherries make that difficult to see. So, yeah, I think what I'm going to do is, this is me deciding, like, obviously the reason that the triangle is so well defined on the other one is it's completely different colors to what the jacket is. And yeah, and completely different shapes as well to the tiny sort of small to medium size floral print of the jacket. Whereas this one, the cherries in the print of the cherry jacket are quite big and the flowers are quite big. So they're all sort of mushing together. So I've decided I'm just going to mosaic right around the edge of it with the lighter sort of magenta pink ones. They're sort of a more musky magenta. I'm going to tile, maybe 2 or 3 layers of that and then go back to all the different beads. So it's going to have sort of a gutter effect around the edge of it. And then I'll go back to the normal mosaic beading. So that's what I'm going to do. And that way I think if I just did regular mosaic beading over the entire jacket, your eye would still pick up the design feature because the flowers are so much bigger than the tiny mosaic beads. But I think I'll give it just that extra tiny bit of distinction by putting a little gutter rail of mosaic beads in the lighter colours, 2 or 3 layers around the edge, and then I'll sort of just go back to normal mosaic beading. It'll make sense once I've done it, but I only just decided and now it's time to stop filming and start editing. And yeah, I finally got my voice back. I lost my voice for quite a while, so I can actually croak my way through the narration as well. So anyway, this is it. At this point, I've done a little bit more beading. So if you have a very good eye for detail, you can see that the sleeves are a little bit more filled in and at the top of the back has a little bit more. And when I show you the back, you'll see that I've started doing the lighter sort of gutter lines around the edge of the design feature on the back that will give them a little bit more distinction. I think because obviously the fabric is white and pink as well, and that sort of comes through between a few of the flowers. So I think I've got some red metallic sequins. So I think in the bit sections where the white is too visible, I'll just bead over some sequins it'll just be underneath the flowers. And if the flower moves, you'll see a red metallic sequins instead of white print fabric. So yeah, so it'll be a more cohesive whole. And yeah, I still have so much to do with this jacket, but it is getting there slowly. And well, now that I'm doing the narration, I feel like it's not that long since you've seen the Vintage Ladybug's jacket. But as I was working on the cherry, this is me pointing out that 2 weeks ago, I filled that jar sort of almost with beads, and I still haven't used that whole jar of beads because they're so tiny. So I get a lot of people saying, I'd love to do some beading, but beads are so expensive. You need to buy 1 or 2 packets of beads, and that will be enough for if you're doing the collar of a denim jacket or something. You really don't need that many beads. If you're using big beads, then you only get a couple in each packet. But if you're using seed beads or any sort of medium or small beads, 1 packet will probably be enough. 1 or 2, 2 different types of beads. So 2 packets of beads will probably be enough. You need needle, thread, and a packet or 2 of beads, and that's it, or some buttons to stitch on. You really don't need much to start sewing or beading. Anyway, this is the last longing glance at the Vintage Ladybug's jacket. As I said, I'm still in 2 minds about adding beads to the sleeves. I think what I could do is, I just love these. They look so pretty and they move so well. What I could do is the beading, the fringe that I've done along the bottom is quite long. So what I could do is sort of take the top half of each design or sort of shorten each design and do something half as long around the sleeves of the cuffs. That might be interesting, and it'll maintain the integrity of the design, but it won't be too distracting, because what I like about it the way it is now is that it just looks so simple. The top half of the jacket, which is pretty much the only section that most people will see or notice, it's just so simple and clean. I love a simple, clean design. So I don't know. I might leave it on the mannequin for the next week or so because as I said, I'm thinking of combering all my fabrics and just getting out. Because a lot of the cotton prints, I bought them. I was like, oh, this will be cute if I make it into a jacket. But I've just like doing the mosaic cherry jacket has been really, really awesome. And I want to do more jackets like this, but it is taking so long. So I'm going to go through all the fabrics that I've decided I'm going to turn into jackets. Some of them I'll just put back into the dresses and, other bits of clothing and not make it into a jacket. So I'll go through all my jacket fabrics and see which ones would be good for working with mosaics. Also, beading around the edges of the Cherry Mosaic jacket has been such an absolute pain. So I'm going to make sure I only do mosaic beading in future on ones that, like, the edges won't be too contrasting. So anyway. So the next video you see from me will probably be a fabric combination, perhaps. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've been inspired to do some beading because beading is awesome, or some sewing because sewing's pretty fun too. Anyway, thanks again for watching and happy sewing.